Actually, not that far from Leicester. We go to Nottingham, where 17-year-old learner driver, I haven't got his last name here, Joseph Bell, pulls up, or attempts to pull up at a set of red traffic lights. He is a learner driver. He's in a car, and it's not like he's just in a car with a couple of L plates tied on with a bit of string. It's liveried. It's a professional driving instructor, and he goes beyond the stop line at the red traffic lights. And you know, I think, to be generous, just about, perhaps his near side rear wheel, maybe just touching the white line, but the rest of the car, I'm afraid, is over. Seen by a police officer, they then decide to take the young man to court, despite the intervention of the driving instructor. Now, at court, he admitted failing to comply with the red light. Nottingham magistrates, though, accepted the special circumstances. His lawyer, Bruce Stewart, says that it showed what overwhelmingly bad judgment the police had showed than the pupil, who was handed an absolute discharge, which means he does not have to pay a fine, nor court costs, nor accept any points on his licence. So, can I put it to you that this was perhaps a waste of everybody's time? But I'm not a legal professional. Nick Freeman is. He's a commentator and criminal defence lawyer to be found at the firm Freeman and Company, specialising in areas such as this. Nick, what would you say to Notts Police about this? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. As you say, a scandalous waste of taxpayers' money in bringing this learner driver to court. I mean, to prosecute him and not prosecute the instructor is wrong, because, of course, the instructor had the controls actually to prevent the offence being committed. And he should have actually been charged with a substantive offence because he was in control of the vehicle. He had separate control. So the magistrates have expressed their view. These are special reasons, and what they're really saying is he shouldn't have been punished at all. It was never in the interest of justice, as I'm sure you and your listeners are aware, Nick. When someone's committed an offence, and the offence was committed, he's crossed the line. Yes. Normally, it's 3 penalty points. Is there a 50% chance of conviction? Yes, because he's actually committed the offence. But is it in the interest of justice? Absolutely not. The very essence of a learner driver, obviously, that he's going to make lots of mistakes. When any learner driver gets in a car, they're never going to be driving with reasonable consideration for other road users, because they don't understand that. That's what they're learning about. They're going to commit many offences, unfortunately, and you'd like to think the police would empathise with that, as indeed when they're learning to drive, for example, in an advanced driving situation, they're learning.
Let me ask you...
It's just a ridiculous situation.
Let me ask you this, Nick. You're a professional in this field. I'm just a journalist. When I saw this in the paper, initially I was absolutely staggered. Then I do sometimes question some of our police as thinking, what about you? You're doing this every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. Were you surprised by this one?
Well, I used to prosecute for the police as far back as 1981. I've been in this game for 40 years. I have never, ever heard of this situation before. And in these times when we've got so many more pressing matters, to pursue a learner driver and not the instructor and take him to court when it clearly is just a huge error, and then to say, and even though the magistrates have found special reason, which basically said the magistrates say, look, we're not going to punish him. Yeah. In effect, he's done nothing wrong. We are still so arrogant that we're not prepared to say, actually, we got this wrong, we're sorry. What sort of message does that send to the members of the public who need the public on side to help them detect offences, just generally to work together? And to coexist and prevent crime. And the public are going to think, you're not even living in our world this day and age. You need really to start recalibrating what your thought process is, because they've just got this terribly wrong. And in my view, the Chief Constable should now get behind this and say, look, we have got this wrong. I'm going to apologise to the boy, the family concerned, and to all who are actually following this case, because it's obviously struck a nerve with the public, and rightly so.
And let me ask you this. You mentioned a couple of times the instructor. I mean, in my world, if I was a copper, I'd tap on the window and I'd say, steady as you go, and I'd drive off. And I don't need any more. Are you saying they should have gone after the instructor here, Nick?
Well, legally, if they're going after, from a legal perspective, absolutely.
But in a perfect world, you just tap on the glass and say...
He's in control. He's in control. I think he actually had separate controls on his side.
Yeah.
So he legally is as culpable as the person he's teaching, arguably more culpable from a legal standpoint. It's a little bit like aiding and abetting drink driving. You do both. If I'm drunk and I know you're drunk and I say, I want you to drive my car, we'd both be prosecuted. And in this situation, the instructor is the one who is in control of the car. I believe he had separate controls.
He did.
He's teaching someone. It's wholly inconsistent for the police to prosecute the driver and not the instructor.
Nick, always good speaking with you. Nick Freeman is criminal defence lawyer to be found at the firm Freeman and Company, commentator as well, specialist in this field, as he says, for a number of years. For me, I should need to tell you what the police say. Nottingham Police said, there's no mitigation for learner drivers when committing a traffic offence. It was the job of the officers to uphold the law. Well, that, excuse me, that to me speaks to what my contributor was saying there. They police, and thank God they do, very, very brave men and women, but they police by our consent. And this just, I think, rides a coach and horses through that.